Next on HBO.
A new movie every Saturday night. Harry is back in the Hogwarts. Daniel Radcliffe stars in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
Harry is back in the Hogwarts. He finds himself into the wizard. Daniel Radcliffe stars in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
New movie every Saturday night. Harry proofs himself into the wizard. Daniel Radcliffe. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
Harry proofs himself into the wizard. He became along as the Dursleys. Daniel Radcliffe. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
A new movie every Saturday night. Three animals found a baby. The voices of Ray Ramono, John Leguizamo, and Dennis Leary. Ice Age.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
Three mammals travels with a new baby in this whole Wild West, featuring the voice Ray Romano, John Leguizamo, and Dennis Leary. Ice Age.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO. Prepare for the force of battle. Ewan McGregor and Natalie Portman. Star Wars Episode 2: Attack of the Clones. Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
A new movie every Saturday night. Ewan McGregor and Natalie Portman. Star Wars Episode 2: Attack of the Clones.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
Go behind the scenes of a sci-fi action film in this third installment, starring Keanu Reeves. HBO First Look: The Matrix Revolution.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
Tackle the teams before it heads up in the Sports Center, and it makes it up for headlines of unlikely for takeout inside the NFL.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
The remarkable Has the Became in this soccer, HBO sports documentary, Dare to Dream the Story of the U.S. women's soccer team.
Next on HBO.
Next on HBO.
A behind-the-scenes for second installment in this animated comedy in the voice of Mike Myers. The making of Shrek 2.
Next on HBO.
Next on HBO. Entertainment, sports, and everything else, and between in this Emmy Award-winning, and he became in the talk show host on The Record with Bob Costas. Next on HBO.
Next on HBO.
Here's some sports, entertainment, comedy and movie stars, and it's about time to make talk show host on The Record with Bob Costas.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
A brutal crime stars of the manic duel takes over in The Stand before and aftermath of the murder. The HBO original movie, The Laramie Project.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
An originally dog and a lonely boy become the two best friends of each other, and they make their own choices before they demand run down to Dogtown. My dog Skip.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
Those mighty Ducks are back and ready to hit the ice, but before they can claim victory, they must beat the champs from Iceland, D2, the Mighty Ducks.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
Here's some sports, entertainment, comedy and movie stars, and it's about time to make talk show host on The Record with Bob Costas.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
A new movie every Saturday night, The Animals has turned into the war before it takes for a long, Jeff Goldblum and Elizabeth Perkins, Cats and Dogs.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
A new movie every Saturday night, when you have a past of wild of these two, Goldie Hawn and Susan Sarandon are the Banger Sisters.
Next on HBO.
on HBO.
A new movie every Saturday night. A dog finds new home with a boy and strange mailman. David Arquette stars in See Spot Run.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
A new movie every Saturday night. One Man Stand of Outrage. Mekhi Phifer, Josh Hartnett, and Julia Stiles. Oh.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
A Chinese intelligence agent travels to Paris to find a mob boss to revenge. Jet Li and Bridget Fonda star in Kiss of the Dragon.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO. Two brothers grew up in the first mountain, and it is making a first choice in this World War First. Brad Pitt, a river runs through it. Next on HBO.
Next on HBO. Sinbad is a notorious gunslinger faces off in a showdown from the gang enemies. The HBO original movie, The Cherokee Kid. Next on HBO.
Next on HBO.
A man brings the hood into the Middle Ages in this time travel comedy in this big time. Martin Lawrence stars in Black Knight.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
The best comedy of the whole wide world, and This Is Most Thing and many more where that came and comes around than in another show, Tracy Takes On.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
A teenager who meets her father a long time, and they had seen each other. Tommy Lee Jones stars in The River Rat.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
And scientist discovers a manic bomb for a 2 serious games for even provides from a laboratory. John Lithgow, The Manhattan Project.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
There's any way to use drug money, and everything called the families is a very danger game. A dangerous affair, life stories, families in crisis.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
Two children move to their house with another parents, and the man tries harm to other own. Lee Sobieski and Diane Lane, The Glass House.
Next on HBO. Next on HBO.
Harry finds and lives the Hogwarts, and he also reveals that Dark Wizard in this fantasy adventure of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone.
Next on HBO.
Next on HBO.
A new movie every Saturday night. An unlucky cop and speed happy cabbie team up. Queen Latifah and Jimmy Fallon star in Taxi.
Next on HBO.
Next on HBO. An unlucky cop and a speed-happy cabbie team up to catch a gang of sexy criminals. Queen Latifah and Jimmy Fallon star in Taxi. Next on HBO.
Next on HBO.
Featuring voice of Bill Murray as a cat lives in with a neighbor guy with unstyled household. Breckin Meyer, Jennifer Love Hewitt, Garfield.
Next on HBO.
Next on HBO.
It's a dangerous city of the earth of the mysterious of the whole town and makes everyone down. Dennis Quaid and Jake Gyllenhaal star in The Day After Tomorrow.
Next on HBO.
Next on HBO.
Two partners team up after taking from the bad guys for 1970s TV series. Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson starring Starsky and Hutch.
Next on HBO.
Next on HBO, an all-new episode of the drama chronicling the events of the legendary city through the eyes of two soldiers, the HBO original series, Rome. Next on HBO.
Next on HBO. A sniper holds a man in his sights and a city in his grip. Colin Farrell, Forrest Whitaker, and Katie Holmes star in Phone Booth. Next on HBO.
Next on HBO.
A new movie every Saturday night. A woman stops a deadly virus. Mila Jovovich stars in Resident Evil Apocalypse. Next on HBO.
Next on HBO. A corrupt corporation uses a deadly virus to test its ultimate killing machine. Mila Jovovich stars in Resident Evil Apocalypse. Next on HBO.